Hello, everybody. My name is Patrick, and today I'm going to tell you how I used to be involved in bullshit martial arts. Now, this is a pretty long story. I'm probably going to have to edit a lot of it down, but I hope you stick through it, honestly, for your sake. This story starts about 14 years ago. Um, I had made a friend who said he did Wing Chun. Now, at the time, I had already sort of created a pseudo MMA style for myself, and what I mean by that it was far from complete. I mainly at the time only did boxing and wrestling. I didn't kick at all, didn't elbow at all. Um, I only knew one submission, and that was the rear naked choke. So eh, my fighting style was pretty much that of a incomplete MMA fighter, I would say. But this Wing Chun friend of mine, he he talked a big game, so I was like, all right, well, let's have a fight and see how that works out. And so what happened was we didn't have any mats. We didn't. We were fighting in his fucking living room, so I didn't want to wrestle him because we talked this out beforehand because there was no safe way to do takedowns because a takedown not on mats could seriously injure somebody. Um, so that pretty much just left me with my boxing, and he beat the shit out of me basically, which at the time I thought was very impressive, but in reality it was not because at the time, again, I was in middle school. I was in the 8th grade. I was 14 and I only weighed 145 pounds. This person was fucking over 250 pounds and was a sophomore in high school. So the fact that he beat me shouldn't have been that surprising, but it was surprising to me. So then what I did was we were still hanging out and shit like that, and I fought him for like 2 weeks straight. And finally, I thought of a strategy. I was like, I noticed something about his style. Um, because he did Wing Chun, he was overly reliant on parries. So, he would like parry with his forearm into that shit, and he would parry with his hand into that shit. And so, what I thought to do was I would throw in and mix up a bunch of feints into my combinations. And it worked. I beat him using that strategy. But as a result of that, because he was such a petty person, he threw a big harumph about it. He gave me practically a fucking lecture talking about how a real man commits to his attacks and feints are a bitch move, and you should never use feints because those are, never mind the fact that they're apparently like my Achilles tendon when it comes to stand up. You should never use feints ever because a real man commits to his attacks. That was the base summary of what he was saying. Now, at where I am right now in my life as a fucking adult, I would have said, "Go fuck yourself, you petty douche." But being the fact that I was a impressionable middle schooler, I feel a lot of us are impressionable about that time. If you're not, good for you. You were smarter than I was, but at the time I was like an impressionable middle schooler, and I was like, it makes sense, I want to be a man, so I'll commit to my attacks. I'll stop using the only thing that's proven to beat you so far because we can't wrestle because there's no mats, and because so that basically forces me to brawl with you. And I'm far fucking smaller. But so then when I turned 15, I still only beaten him that one time because again, no wrestling, no strategy. It's just, oh, we're gonna fucking brawl, and I'm smaller, so that's just gonna fuck me up. So, um, but these are things you don't think about at the time. Um, but so then, when I was 15, I figured it was time for me to start learning his style and be like, well, it's had such a good success rate, on me personally, and seen him fight other people again with similar stipulations. And so I was like, I feel it's time to learn this stuff. So finally I met his master, and he was this big, also fat guy, and he taught out of his backyard, didn't have a school or anything, and he was a Wing Chun master who, again, I was an impressionable idiot. He boasted these literally impossible feats and attributed it to his Wing Chun. He said that he said such things as he was able to use the Wing Chun punch to like vibrate entire support beams for like malls and shit. That like so like basically the entire support beam vibrated due to his punch. Naturally, that wouldn't fucking actually happen. And I don't just mean like a little. I mean he said he basically like and he also talked about like all these street fights he won and how his training was so impossibly intense. It was seriously like some fucking Frank Dukes Bloodsport shit. Like he said that his master would like hire hoodlums from a bar and give them knives, and he would have them fight, and like he would have them fight 3 of them at a time. And at the time, again, I wasn't really thinking, and I was like, oh my god, it's so impressive, and not thinking, well, if 3 guys. There's so many things wrong with that fucking story in general. He had a bunch of stories that were like these, but this one is the one I take the most fucking issue with. Because, firstly, you're telling me you beat up 3 dudes at once who all had knives. And apparently his master would also find like the biggest, toughest, strongest guys in the bar. So he beat the best guys in the bar who all had knives and the numbers advantage on him. Okay. Not to mention these guys who were just hanging out in a bar, like a little Chinese man comes up to him and was like, hey, I'll give you $100 if you take this knife and kill my student for me, or try to, or whatever. Or they'd be like, yeah, that sounds like a good idea. I'll fucking take that $100 for to murder some dude I don't even know. That's fucking genius. He also said that one time he defeated a judoka by, like, after he took him to the ground, he, like, stuck his thumb up his butt somehow, and then, like, that made the judoka get off of him, and then he knocked him out standing up. Like, again, just horse shit, okay? Obvious horse shit that I didn't think about because I was a retarded 15-year-old. Something that I say a lot about myself now when I talk about martial arts to people who I haven't talked about in a long time, and they're like, oh, didn't you used to believe in this crap and whatever? And I say, I openly admit, I used to be retarded. Like, that's just all there is to it. I have gotten over my mental retardation now. That's what happened. But, so then what happened was I trained in Wing Chun for about 6 years. I did use it to beat some guys up who didn't know how to fucking fight. And so, again, I attributed it to, like, oh, it must be fucking amazing. And me and my friend, we wound up being like those kind of fucking retards that say, oh, MMA doesn't work. MMA would never work in a street fight. All the classical things. And that's because I went off of a lot of what my friend and his master told me. They had, like, these anti-grappling defenses and all that shit. Stupid shit. So eventually, me and my friend had the bright idea of, oh, well, since these MMA fighters are so fucking bad, I'll go into an MMA fight and we'll, like, basically rep our style or whatever. Now, as to why he couldn't do it was because he was a fat piece of shit who didn't have the discipline to make a fighting weight. I was always in shape, okay? Even when I was practicing Wing Chun and they did the bullshit thing telling me, oh, muscles are bad for Wing Chun, I still fucking kept in shape and whatever. I was like, okay, whatever. But yeah, no, so he had no discipline. He hardly ever trained, really, in general, whether it was weights or his fucking bullshit. Again, a lot of his success was mainly due to the fact that he was just larger than anyone he faced. So that left it down to me, and a lot of the training I had to do my fucking self. He wouldn't even help me out with the training. And so I had to come up with my own game plan. I had to come up with my own strategies. I had to do my own dieting, my own conditioning. I had to do a lot of that shit all on my fucking own. Or I had to do everything on my own. I didn't, not a lot, all of it. I had to do fucking all of it. We go to the fight. The fight's an entirely different, super long story. I might just do that in another video on my own. Or in a video all its own. My friend goes there and he openly admits that, like, oh, if you get damaged, or by the way, or if you make it past, if it makes it past the first round and you get like severely damaged, I don't know what I could do to fix you up. Like, I don't have any, and he's supposed to be my fucking corner man and my coach. He didn't help me train at all. He didn't help me diet at all. And he says he doesn't even know how he's going to fucking fix me up if I get busted. So, great job. Thanks, dude. So, I lose that fight, naturally. During the fight, none of the, anti-grappling defenses that he came up with, and I don't know if his master came up with it or if that was just all his own fucking stupid idea. But none of that shit worked. I got my face bashed in. I got fucked up. I didn't know what the fuck to do on the ground because I had stopped practicing wrestling and all that shit because, you know, I was one of those anti-grappling douchebags because of the fucking shit that he was teaching me and all that shit. So I lost naturally. No ground game. The stand-up went pretty fine, but you can't be a good MMA fighter with just stand-up. And even then, I wasn't using like Wing Chun stand-up. I was using more boxerish attacks, but still, whatever. That my boxing was rusty because I hadn't trained it in the longest fucking time. I had no wrestling because I hadn't trained it in fucking 6 years. I lost. You know, it's not surprising when you like really take a step back and look at it. It's like, you know what I mean? That's all there is fucking to it. And so naturally I went into a depression after this loss because I was like, you know, did I waste fucking so many years of my life practicing this bullshit? And you know, I was 18 at this time, and he was trying to comfort me and console me and reassure me that, oh, if this, that, and the other weren't there, you totally would have won. And in reality, I probably wouldn't have. You know what I mean? You know, some guy's practicing real fighting, I'm practicing bullshit. I wouldn't have won that fight if it was a street fight or otherwise. You know what I mean? Could I beat him now after training in real shit? Maybe, but, you know, back then, no. Not a fucking chance. Then we came up with the idea to, you know, again, I was still kind of mesmerized by the mumbo jumbo and all that shit, and we decided to come up with our own YouTube channel together. Now, I don't know if any of you remember this. It was called Mind Over Martial. It was the laughingstock of the community, the martial arts community, online community, for a good couple of weeks, just because I don't blame them. This channel fucking sucked. You know, I was mainly following his shit, but at the same time, he was too fucking lazy to even write or script the videos, so I had to do them. And even then, when a lot of the times he would just fucking contradict me. There was a lot of editing in those videos, so there were times where literally, like, I would say something and he's like, no, that's wrong. It's like this. Naturally, it's not like this. It's more of his fucking bullshit. You know, again, I went along with it because I was brainwashed and shit like that. Channel tanked naturally. You know, our biggest claim to fame, I guess you could say, is a video where we try to, like, Joe Rogan made a video saying that Aikido is bullshit, which it is. But so we made a video defending it, and it got more views than anything, and it was fucking straight, like, you know, nobody liked it. It was a fucking piece of shit. And it was a fucking piece of shit. Like, you know, I was hypnotized. He's full of shit. We fucking, it was a shitty video. I don't know what the fuck, you know, else to say about that. Eventually, we had a falling out, and it wasn't related to martial arts at all. It was related to a girl. I'm not gonna get into the ins and outs of that whole situation. It was fucking a mess. It was a fucking mess. But long story short, like this was a long fucking story. My girlfriend at time of speaking right now, we were sort of getting together, digging each other. It was kind of inevitable that we were going to wind up dating. Everyone saw it. Everyone realized what was going on here. But my friend, for some reason, thought that she was like digging on him. Like, he's a narcissist. I'm not going to get into like all of that shit also. But just for no fucking reason, no logic to back it up. He was like, clearly she's into me. And when he asked her out, she turned him down very politely. He was a fucking crybaby bitch about it. And then me and her started dating something like a week later. And he was like, oh, are you disrespecting me? Oh, clearly we're not friends because you have no respect for me. And this is like, it's like, what the fuck, dude? Like, did you seriously think you had a shot? I don't know. But, I might wind up cutting all that out. But, long story short, we had a falling out due to that girl. We weren't really friends for the longest time. I would still probably say we aren't friends now. We are acquaintances, if anything. And while I was away from him, basically, I was like, you know, just thinking back on shit, and I was like, you know what? A lot of that shit was fucking stupid. You know, his whole friendship, he was just trying to always feel superior towards me, and martial arts was just sort of an extension of that. And so I started getting back into boxing and wrestling, and I started training in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, you know, real shit. And I sort of had a knack for jiu-jitsu. My coach gives me lots of compliments all the time. He says that I look like I've wrestled for fucking years out there. He says that I should really consider competing. I don't know if I'm going to compete, but he constantly hammers it home that I should compete. I am fucking competition worthy. And I used to sort of attribute that to like Wing Chun, my Wing Chun training, where I was like, oh yeah, you know, maybe it's because you know, a lot of the other stuff is bullshit, but maybe it's because of my Chi Sao training and all that shit that allows me to my touch sensitivity to be so high that makes me good at jiu-jitsu. In reality, I started thinking about it more, and I'm like, you know what's far more likely is I have like a slight background in wrestling. I've always been very naturally athletic, and I constantly train my strength. So maybe it's more likely that due to my previous experience in grappling, my strength and athleticism, that I'm good at jiu-jitsu, and it has nothing to do with Wing Chun, and that was literally just a waste of 6 years. And, you know, that's a tough pill as well. You know, again, even just recently, I only made this discovery like semi-recently, you know, of maybe all of it was a waste. And that's a tough pill to swallow, to know that you've spent years and years and years of your life. I would actually consider myself lucky. There are people who spent fucking over a decade studying bullshit and have gotten nowhere with it. You know what I mean? But they don't know that. And I was lucky enough that I got out when I did, and that I'm training real shit now. You know what I mean? I consider myself very fortunate that I'm one of the few people who was actually able to wake up when it comes to this shit, or got woken up. You know, it's a scary thought to think that if my falling out with my shitty friend didn't happen, that I would still be training nonsense and be getting nowhere. That is a fucking terrifying thought to me. I do attribute it largely to the fact that he got me when I was like so young and like developing, that he was just basically like a bad influence. But ultimately, you know, there always is some personal responsibility that comes whenever you fuck up. Whenever you fuck up, there's always personal responsibility. That's why I say I used to be retarded, because I fucking did. I used to believe all this nonsense. The reason I'm owning up to this and telling you this story and giving you all these details and shit like that is because I want to warn other people who do this horse shit. People who do Wing Chun, people who do Aikido, people who do like Pankak Salat, all this clear, nonsensical shit fighting. I want to warn you, you know what I mean? don't fall into the horse shit. I feel I was listening to a podcast recently that had the Pink Man on it, and he said he said it probably the best. We have a litmus test for martial arts, and that's to fucking fight each other. And through years and years and years and years of competition with MMA, we know what works. We know what works and what doesn't work, because every style under the sun has competed in MMA at some point, and the consistently best styles always kept coming up on top. So we know what works and we know what doesn't now. And Wing Chun has never been proven to work in like a fight against a fighter who knows what the fuck he's doing. And neither have a lot of those styles. So if you're truly, truly, truly interested in martial arts, I would suggest that you go to, or learning how to fight, self-defense, competition, whatever. I would suggest that you go to an MMA gym or a jiu-jitsu gym or a Muay Thai academy, something, you know, that's proven to be effective. And if you are already in these arts, these bullshit arts, just get out while you can. You know, like, I wasted 6 years, and I feel bad about that 6 years. I can only imagine how somebody who's wasted so many fucking years, possibly decades, would feel. So, I know it's hard to admit, and I know it's a tough pill to swallow, and I know, you know, no one likes to admit that they've been wasting time, especially when they think they've been practicing a skill. It's a tough pill to swallow, but if you're truly interested in martial arts and not like bullshit and not like an inflated ego and all that shit, then it's important to own up to yourself. Hey, I wasted all this fucking time doing nothing. Nothing good came from it. Admit that to yourself, and if martial arts is still important to you and it's still a goal, to go out and find a real school, an acknowledged school or master or whatever, and practice that. Alright guys, so that has been my story on my journey through bullshit martial arts and all that stuff. Please let me know what you think about that down in the comments. I'm Patrick, and I'll see you next time.